Oliver J. Thomas, professor of all things important, especially sleeping, would like to warn you that the following video contains sentiments personal only to the YouTuber in question and is in no way intended to cause any offence. Oliver thanks you.
Hi guys, so this is going to be a Renee rants video. It's also somewhat of a Renee responds video to Cydney's fantastic discussion vid on slut-shaming in YA and just in life in general, and I will certainly link that in the doobly-doo. This is going to be a real mishmash of thoughts and opinions and ideas and questions and whatnot, so I apologise. It really is going to be like the little men in my head are like wandering like about from different things and picking at stuff, so I apologise if it's not a very linear train of discussion, but it's very sincere to me. I've been waiting until the right moment when I'm getting fueled by these ideas and thoughts and worries and stuff so that I'm ready to spill them all out and just word vomit it to you. And it's going to cover a few different things just concerning sexuality in fiction and in life in general, and the prejudices and assumptions that come with that. And yeah, it's going to go into a few different things, and I will try and link it back to fiction when I can, but ultimately there are going to be some real life anecdotes included, so brace yourself for that, and there's a very good chance that I might have to split this video in two, so I apologise. I'm trying to check how long I talk for, so once we hit about the 11-12 minute mark, if I'm still going and I have more to say, we're going to split it in two. We're going to split this bitch in half, so let's go. Okay, slut-shaming is not nice, so don't do it. It's an inherent thing. We all think it. We shouldn't, but we do. And it's like so many negative things that you think but shouldn't necessarily say and put into practice. Okay, so my essential issue with slut-shaming is, A, I think the term slut is a really vicious, brutal, violent little word, and I don't like to use it. And I think it's often misapplied as well, which is a big thing. And as it almost always pertains to young women, or just women in general, and their sexual activity, I take issue with it because there's an innate hypocrisy there as well, and more on that later. Okay, so a real life anecdote first. When I was in high school, I was very good friends with this girl, and it was known that she was sexually promiscuous, and it wasn't something she ever advertised or really discussed or talked about. She never wanted to, and that was fine, and, you know, as her friends, we never brought it up. That was her business. Unfortunately, for the most part, she slept with a lot of guys in my year who were douchebags and talked about it a great deal, which is how it became quite widely known. And my issue was not the fact that she slept around. My issue was the fact that she slept around with assholes who didn't treat her nicely, and she never seemed happy. And at the end of the day, the ultimate argument is, if you choose, what you choose to do with your own body is your choice, and you should ultimately be doing things that make you happy. So if you are sleeping around, one has to assume that so long as you're not hurting people's feelings or hurting others or damaging relationships, more on that later, then so long as you're happy and you're being safe, then it should be okay. And I will never forget a conversation I had with her. I think the one time we ever sort of discussed this, and I don't know how it came about, but we were eating our lunch, just her and I together, and somehow sex in general was discussed. And she said to me something along the lines of, all the girls in our year and all the girls in high school are so naive and just they're wanting romance. And I turned to her and I said, well, but that's okay, isn't it? I mean, sex should be enjoyable. And then I very distinctly remember, in my very naive way, I worded, sex is nice, isn't it? And she turned to me and stared at me and said, Renee, there is nothing nice about sex. And she was 16 years old. And then she went back to eating her lunch, and I was so dumbfounded with grief and confusion that I couldn't say anything. I was just staring at her, and she didn't notice. And of course that stopped me from asking the one question that was screaming in my head, which was, well then why are you sleeping with people? And I will die not knowing the answer to that question. And it was a question I asked myself about a few of the girls in our year who were quoted to be sluts by asshole guys. I know I seem like I'm generalizing here, but really you don't know the guys in my year. They were douchebags. They really were. And I would more so not want to criticize them because they were sleeping around, because for the most part these were nice people. you know, and they were intelligent as well. I think so often the stereotypes we have of slutty, skanky girls just don't fit at the end of the day, and so people don't know what to do with that, and so they'll just say, oh, well, I don't like them though because they're sleeping around, because they don't fit any of the other negative connotations we've come to assume. You can pigeonhole these girls into that box so that they can be negatively seen. And that just wasn't the case for a lot of the girls in my year, and so more so I was just sad for them because I couldn't understand their behaviour. And at the end of the day in fiction, particularly in YA fiction, what I'm so much more curious about is to know the reasons and the backstory and the mental and emotional landscape of these characters, to know kind of why they choose to do what they do. And so often, especially in paranormal YA fiction, the skanky slutty girls who are promiscuous are seen as being bad people purely because of that, not for anything else. Sometimes they'll also be bitchy and not nice, and, you know, not nice to our characters, and you can kind of, then you can step back and think, oh, well, okay, they don't have a nice personality and they don't treat people kindly, so that's a negative, and that's understandable. But a lot of the time it's just given away in, like, you know, random lines tossed about saying, oh, she's a skank, so we hate her. And I think that those two things don't actually connect. You can dislike somebody for their behaviour towards you personally and their behaviour towards other people, but ultimately, unless their actions are done with negative intentions and have really negative consequences, disliking them purely on the basis of their sexual activity does not make sense and is not justified and does not an evil character make. And that's one of the most basic things that tends to shit me when you've got the very common, and it's a trope as old as time in all kinds of fiction, of the Madonna whore stereotype and conflict. And Melina Pendulum talks about this a great deal in her videos, so I'll try and find some and link them. But the idea of the virginal character, it's always with females as well. The virginal character being good, the fact that they are a virgin necessitates the fact that they are good, whereas the character that might be more open about their sexuality or just visually in how they're presented in things, that means they're bad, because it just has to be this dichotomy, this opposition of opposites going on. And that was something I knew it was going to happen when I saw Snow White and the Huntsman. And I was just, it was so obvious and heavy-handed that it didn't even piss me off. I was just laughing. But you had, you know, Kristen Stewart wearing lots of white and looking very delicate and fragile to really hammer home the fact that she's a virgin, she's chaste and pure, and she's all things good. And then you had Charlize Theron over here hamming it up, and she was wearing, like, sexy, low-cut, angular kind of outfits, and her makeup was more heavy, and she was a much more sensual being, and so therefore you knew that she was bad. And that's used all the time, and one of the things I really hate in fiction in particular, it's used to justify adultery. And adultery is a big issue for me, and how it's presented in fiction really shits me in a myriad of ways. But so often you will see, it depends on what side of the adultery argument you're coming at, from the point of view of the reader or viewer with the characters. So if you're on the side of the adultery is a good thing, then you'll usually see the person that the usually guy is cheating with is presented as being more sexually active and open, and they're more passionate, and therefore they're the better sexual option and romantic option for this guy to be with, whereas the partner that they're with is presented as being more reserved perhaps and not as sexually engaged, and therefore they're not offering anything for this person, so it's understandable that they'd go and get their kicks elsewhere. And that's something I've always hated in the portrayal of adultery. Speaking of adultery, just quickly, goodness me, I'm running out of time already. Adultery, the idea of calling someone a slut or a skank based on the fact that they have slept around with people and have subsequently damaged relationships. Again, I still don't like the term. I think it's a really harsh word and I just don't like using it. Those kind of situations, again, is where it makes a little more sense to have vehemence and anger towards a person both in life and in fiction, because they have done something that has had negative consequences and has hurt people. And for myself, this has been a really big part of my life, sadly. I can understand that mentality much more, because ultimately you are looking at the fact of the consequences of their actions and of their sexual promiscuity, as opposed to it being a question of they're sexually promiscuous, therefore we do not like this person. It's they have done something and it has caused sad things. Hello, Ollie. He has opinions too. I'm running out of time, and I'm rambling like crazy, so I'm going to try and do another video and hopefully make more sense and be more pointed with my thoughts. And probably more personal anecdotes will be coming as well. But yeah, I've still got to talk about the other side of slut-shaming, which is virgin-shaming, and the hypocrisy that stands with the inherent discord in thoughts with regarding male and female virginity. So that's going to come in the next video, and I'll try and get back to my slut-shaming thoughts as well, and yeah, stuff!